Today, we're going to do a little bit of core support work. So, let's begin. We're approaching the full moon, and sometimes it's nice to engage with that kind of energy. Sometimes, if we have too much full moon energy, then we might need to find something more restorative. But we always do bring in restoration at the end of class. You can take a break if you need to, or I will offer some modifications. So if you have a towel or you have a blanket, we'll start with that little gentle chest opener. And knowing that if you have a thick blanket, it gives you a little bit more of a roll. I mean, I'll just show you with the two that I have right here. You can have a towel too. And then I have this thinner cotton blanket. So we're going to do this chest opener where you put it under your shoulder blades so the shoulders come down to the floor, arms come out to the side, and depending on your lower back, since we were focusing on sciatica the other day, you can have the knees bent here if it doesn't work for you to have them straightened out. If you straighten the knees, you can actually really work the legs and press through the feet. Or if you have, something to press your feet into, I can press them into this bolster here. That's going to engage the legs. With the thicker blanket, I get a little bit more, like I might need something under my head, or, oh, this feels good too. Anyway, so that's another option with thicker blanket. And you can, like I say, have the feet on the floor with the knees bent. You can straighten them out. You can press them into a wall or something else and really work the legs. Or if you're just feeling like you want a little bit of thigh opener, you can bring the feet together and the knees wide. So there's a couple of options here, and you can do what feels right for you. So, or you can do, say, a few breaths and feet together, knees wide, a few breaths with them up. So there's a few options that you can play with. But see if whatever option you choose, you can really feel the breath fill up in the abdominal area and move up through the rib cage and move into that upper chest. And especially if you're doing this practice later in the day and you've done some computer work, it's nice to have time here where gravity is really doing the work for you. And this is something that you can sprinkle throughout your day if you need a little bit of support in the back. You could also change your arms overhead to get a little bit more stretch through the side body if that feels like a good option for you. And wherever you are in this pose, you could close your eyes if you'd like to and just let the breath move as deeply as you can into the belly area, through the rib cage to the upper chest. And then everything softens towards the spine as you exhale. So we're really using gravity here to support us supporting the back of the head, whatever part of the body is on the floor. And then if your legs are out, slowly bend them up, and you can roll to your side to pull out the blanket, or you can, press the heels up perhaps. It's probably easier just to roll to your side to put the blanket out next to you so that you can bring the feet together, the feet on the floor, knees bent. And just for a moment, notice how much weight is in each foot. You can kind of move it around so that you can see if you can find a little bit of a balance so that the feet are as even as they can be. You might need to bring a little bit of weight into one of the heels or into the ball of the foot. And you really want to have the toes soft. And then just take your thumb and your lower rib and a finger on the upper hips and just notice that relationship. And we'll start the ab business of keeping the hands there when you bend the knees in, straighten, and bend the knees and soften them on the floor. So see if you can really find that relationship. You may decide that, hey, one hip's a little bit higher, so you might want to press that a little bit longer. And we'll do 2 more this way, and then we'll change the arm position. So you're just exploring if you can start to really feel that relationship between the pelvis and the rib cage. And then you can choose to place the hands down or underneath the head or overhead if you want more intensity. And today you can play with the speed a little bit. If you want to do a few really quickly, or if you want to slow it way down and really feel what that does to the body. So just play with the speed a little bit. And then do 2 more at whatever speed you're going. And then just release the feet to the floor and put the arms next to you. And then really soften the breath and see if you can really feel the breath move into that whole abdominal area. And then if you have a block around, you can hold it between your hands. I mean, if you hold it just off the floor, you get a bit of strong arm work. If you have it on the floor, sometimes it's nice to have 2 blocks so you can really press your hands in there. So that gives you a bit of arm work. So, or you can just have the arms overhead like that without the blocks. But anyway, we're going to inhale the knees to the chest, and we're going to extend up to 90 degrees. Now, if you can't be 90, you don't want it to be closer to the face. You want it to be 90 or you can be a little bit less. So whatever works in your leg, but you really want to press through those heels as long as you don't have, hyperextended knees. This works really well. But this is also a place where you can feel into this for yourself. And then bend the knees into the chest and go to 60 degrees. It's not quite halfway. And then bend the knees into the chest and we'll go to 30 degrees. Bend the knees into the chest, back to 60. Bend the knees into the chest, back to 90. And then exhale the legs slowly towards the floor. And you can either just hang out for a few breaths in Shavasana, or you can bend the knees and have a few breaths here to really fill the abdominals. Now, if you have trouble in any of those positions, you can modify it, go a shorter distance, or you can soften and bend the knees a little bit. So there's still some abdominal work that happens in this pose. So now inhale the arms overhead again. And again, if you want to modify it, you can bring the arms down or under your head. And then bend the knees into the chest. And now we're going to go into 30 degrees. Then bend the knees in and 60 degrees. And then bend the knees up to 90 degrees. And then inhale the knees back to 60. Inhale the knees back to 30. And then slowly bring them down. Release the arms, and if you need to, you can bend the knees, put the feet on the floor. And then roll over and come into all fours. So really you can kind of come onto your knees and then really extend through the shins, through the feet. So you want to try as much as you can to keep the ankles from sickling one direction or the foot sickling. So you don't want the ankles falling out or rolling in. So you want to try to really lengthen the tops of the feet if you can. Now, you can always do a modification if you need to, adding something under the feet if you need something there to support you, or under your ankles, or even under your knees if the surface is a little bit challenging. So now really spreading the fingers, inner elbows in, really engaging the arms. You're going to roll the spine into cat tilt. And inhale into dog tilt. Come into cat tilt. Inhale to dog tilt. Come into cat tilt. Inhale to dog. And now you're going to bring the right knee in and lengthen behind you. If you want a little bit more abdominal work, you can bring the arm with you, but make sure that you're still finding that extension in the spine and then the curve into the spine. So you can either have both hands down and just letting the leg really swing in, or you can give it a little bit more abdominal work and bringing the elbow in and the knee in and extend long. And you can always, bring it in for a few breaths to see how you are today in this pose. And you can always extend it for a few breaths. And now that we're extended, you want a little bit more in this pose, you can grab the foot or the ankle and come into a little bit of a back bend and a thigh stretch. And then release the leg and the arm long again and bring it back down. And then we'll just do a few rounding into cat, coming into dog tilt, rounding into cat, coming into dog tilt, rounding into cat, coming to dog, and then extending the arm out and bringing it in, or keeping the hand down and just swinging the leg as you round the spine in and then extend it long. So you can do either way with both hands and arm. And then the next one out, if you want more, you can hold the foot, get a thigh stretch and a little bit of a shoulder stretch, little back bend, and then extend it long, hands and knees down, and then just come into big toes together, knees wide. For a couple of breaths, we're just folding into the thigh sockets, bringing the sit bones towards the heel, length through the arms. And then come back up to all four and take one foot behind you and bring the toes under. See if you can feel the lift in the abdominals, and then bring the other foot back and see if you can come into plank pose. So plank pose isn't sticking the butt off, and it's also not dropping the hips down. You want to be plank, literally means a plank, so you have to really engage those abdominals. And then if you can come to upward facing dog and then go back into big toes together, knees wide. If you don't want to do upward facing dog, you could just come back into big toes together, knees wide. And then again, come up to all fours and start with the opposite leg where you tuck the toes under, extend it behind you, really engage the leg here and the abdominals, and then bring the other leg up and feel that support through the arms. And then bring the chest through into upward facing dog. And then come into big toes together, knees wide. Couple of breaths here. And then again, inhale, coming up to all fours, taking the other leg behind, and then the other one to meet it into plank, and then come to upward facing, and this time go into downward facing dog from there. And then you can drop the knees down into big toes together, knees wide. And we'll do one more like that, and you can always modify it and not stay in one of those positions too long. You can always either move through it faster or just come back into big toes together, knees wide. And then inhale, coming up to all four. Now use the opposite leg to extend behind you, engaging that muscles in the leg. Then the other leg comes up to meet it into plank pose, then upward facing, then downward facing. And if you can have a few breaths in downward facing dog, stay here for a few breaths. If you need to go into big toes together, knees wide, you can. But if you can stay here, stay here. And then if you can walk the hands towards the feet, and if you need to bend the knees, of course, do that. If you can straighten the legs out, you can bring the hands in front of the legs and just shake out the head and the neck. And then you can either bend the knees and roll up the spine, or you can hold the elbows and come up to standing. And then if you have blocks, you can do this. If you don't worry about it. If you only have one block, you can put it between your knees. If you have no blocks, don't worry about it. Actually, what I like to do is I have these balls, and it just feels good between my knees. So when I was traveling and I didn't have a lot of props with me, but I did have at least a ball. I would put the ball between the knees. So that feels really good too. So, some options for your practice. So, yeah, I mean, you can find balls all over the place, but there's just something about squeezing the ball that really can engage the inner legs and actually help them stay even in the pose. So we're going to inhale the arms overhead. Exhale into Utkatasana, powerful pose. And then inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale the arms up. Exhale into Utkatasana. Inhale up. Exhale down. On the next one, we'll hold it for a few breaths. Inhale, arms up, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale into Utkatasana, powerful pose. So here you can really lift the abdominals. Make sure that the rib cage is still integrated with the hip bones so you're not throwing the rib cage out. Really working those thighs here. And then inhale, come up, and exhale the arms down. And then you don't need the ball, although you never know what's going to happen. If you have blocks, you can always put them next to you for the next pose. but you also don't need any props. It's just that blocks can be helpful in the next pose. So we're going to go through the next pose by going to Uttanasana. So we're going to first inhale the arms up, Utkatasana, go into Utkatasana. So you've got the bend in the legs. Now bring the right elbow under the left, and we'll come into Gurudasana, eagle pose. If you can't wrap the foot, that's where the block comes in handy, or you just put the foot where you can. And then squeeze the arms and the legs together. And then inhale, slowly come up. And exhale, the arms down. Bit of a heating pose for sure. And then again, inhale the arms up. Exhale into Utkatasana. And then bring the left elbow under the right. Bring the left leg around the right. Although I should have been doing mirror image. So if you're doing the opposite legs, it doesn't matter. And then slowly try to sit down. Lifting the abdominals up. And then release the arms and the legs. And so you might need to actually just do a little tiny bit of a body wave here through the spine to just release anything that might have built up there. Maybe do a little bit of a shake. And then we will actually just stand at the front of the mat for a few more standing poses, although, gosh, we're running out of time already. Yeah, actually, I know. We'll play with the Gurudasana arms. So, standing in Tadasana, take the left leg long behind you as you bend into Warrior One. Then take the right arm under the left and come into Gurudasana arms into Warrior Pose. And if you want a little bit of a back bend, lift the chest, and maybe you get a little more stretch in the arms and the shoulders. And then bring them back in front, release the arms, bring the back leg in. Then take the right leg long behind you, and then the left elbow under the right. First, really establish your feet. And if you want to lift the arms up, get a little bit of a back bend here. Upper chest. And bring the arms back down. And then bring that foot back. And a couple of breaths here. And then step the left leg long behind you into Warrior Two pose. And again, bring the right arm under the left into Gurudasana. And try to keep the torso in between your legs. Then release the arms and slowly bring the back leg up. And I should switch sides so you can see me. And then take the right leg long behind you. Bring the left elbow under the right. Gurudasana arms, eagle arms into Warrior Two pose. And then release the arms, and you can bring the feet closer together and just have a few breaths there. we're going to do a little bit of bridge pose. So if you happen to have a belt, or you can use a towel, you take the belt, and I'll turn this way so you see what I do. I bring the belt behind my ankles, and then I wrap it around so they're through here. The nice thing about doing this, and there's so many, things you can use like a towel to do this. The nice thing about this is that you really use your arm strength to hold on to the belt or the towel, and then you really press up here, and you can really come into that chest to the chin lift. And that'll help you stay in the pose a little longer. Another practice is you can take a block. So you can press the feet up, put the block behind your pelvis, and just stay here for a few minutes, holding the side of the mat if that helps. So blocks, of course, can come lower and you can be here, but see, if I'm this low, I don't get that front body stretch. But sometimes this is the only place you can start because you might have more tension in the shoulders. So that's another option. And we'll do this either one. So, if you've got the block, you can use that if you have the belt. Otherwise, you can just have the feet down and hold on the outer edges of the mat and come up into this pose. So there's 3 options. So I'm just going to come up again like this pose, really holding my ankles with the and then slowly roll down and have a couple of breaths there. Now, I don't usually in these classes teach inversions very much because people don't have the props, and I don't want you to, have any damage in your neck or shoulders. But if you can do a little half shoulder stand, which this is without props. If you have props, of course, you can use blankets, belts, but half shoulder stand would be to bring the legs up and put the hands on the back, but just have a bend in the legs. So you can just stay here, and that's the beginning of working into a shoulder stand. Now, I shouldn't turn my head. That's kind of rule number 1, but you can have the legs lower and just lean into those hands. Now, most of my teachers would have you use a belt because if your arms are way out wide, you're not going to get that support. So they would have you use a belt to support and get that. So if my arms are out like this, I'm not going to get that shoulder support. But if I bring my arms in like this, I can really engage those biceps and the shoulders. So another way, if you happen to have a belt, is to come down and you put it on one elbow or right above one elbow. And then as you come up, you find the other one and then bring it on to support you. So you can just hang out low here. I mean, eventually we try to go further up, but I don't want anybody to injure themselves. So stay really low here into half shoulder stand. If you're able to bring the feet over into halasana, you can do that. But feel free to just stay here for a few breaths. And then you can slowly roll down and take, I've still got the belt on, take the belt off. And then whatever is going to work for you for Shavasana, feet up the wall, feet on a chair, regular Shavasana, something under your knees like pillow or something. So anything that's going to work for you in Shavasana. And then whatever pose you have chosen for your Shavasana, just allow the body to be supported by whatever parts of the body are on the floor. And the breath becomes soft and quiet, like the tide ebbing and flowing. And perhaps bring some awareness into your upper chest or the space between your shoulder blades. And just notice if this kind of practice has given you a little bit more space in that area or not. See if you can notice the relationship of your arms to your shoulder blades and your collarbones. And then go and check out that relationship between the lower rib cage and the upper bones of the pelvis. Can you feel that containment in that area? Can you feel the softness with the breath in the belly? And if that's not the case, don't worry about it. We're here to take the judgment out. So thank you to Mr. Judge, and you can wait. You can sit off to the side for a moment. And then just notice if there's any place in the body that has a little bit of niggles, a little bit of discomfort perhaps. And then see if you can focus your breath in that area. As you inhale, the skin in that area expands. And as you exhale, it softens.
see if you can feel the base of the head softening and your scalp softens. Your forehead widens and softens. Your temples are softening. Space between the eyebrows are softening. Your eyes rest into your eye socket. Your cheeks are softening. Your jaw softens. And your chin is softening. And then slowly begin to reawaken your body, bringing a bit of movement into your hands and feet. Maybe take a big stretch. And then you can slowly roll to your right side. Come up to sitting. And think about what kind of kind actions today you can do for yourself. How can you be kinder to yourself? Thanks for being with me, and namaste.